the reschedule button is a exciting new feature that came out in March. So basically what the feature allows you to do as a partner is to request reschedules without having to come to us and ask for it first in the ticket. So what it's going to do is it's going to reduce a lot of processing time for you guys, because you can go ahead and reschedule it straight away and submit that request through rather than having to get us to check everything the first time. And it's going to be quicker turnarounds as well with that, and so it'll look better towards your customer as well, because you can kind of give them that kind of sort of confirmation and knowledge that yes, this has been sent off to get rescheduled. It's just being processed by the porting team. So it's just better for both you guys and your end customers and for us as well. So where you find it is you find it on any porting order when you go to view it. So you'll see here, once it's in the booked status at the top there, this reschedule button will appear next to the booked date section, and you can simply click on that to basically reschedule a porting order. It does have a little counter next to it as well on the left there, which will count how many times you've submitted a reschedule. So if you kind of reschedule something once, it will go to 1 and then so forth, okay? There is a couple of things that you need to know before you use this feature. So the main thing is that with rescheduling, there are fees involved, and obviously fees that you pass on to your end customer. And so it's important that you have that set up under the end customer's account and on your side in SaaSboss under the billing section of SaaSboss. If you're not sure if you had this set up correctly or if you've even set it up at all, you can reach out to your PGM or PSM and they can help you run through what fees to set up maybe and how to get that going. But it's very important that you have that billing section of this reschedule button and reschedules in general set up before you use this feature, okay? And also, there's a few restrictions that apply to this feature. So when you go to click to use the reschedule button, the new reschedule date that you choose for that porting order has to be on a weekday. It can't be on a weekend, and it has to fit within the limits of that porting type. I'll go over that in a little bit, but there's different restrictions for Cat A's and Cat C's and inbounds and New Zealand as well that you need to follow when you're rescheduling a porting request. It's important to note too that as a partner, you guys can only use the button twice. Like I said, that counter, once it gets to the second number 2 on the counter, you won't be able to use it anymore. You've exceeded the amount of times you can use it yourselves. However, you can reach out to us for the third time. If you need to reschedule something for a third time, you can call us or message us on the ticket and we can do it for you. But yeah, you'll be able to use the button twice before that's sort of locked out feature, okay? And then finally, any reschedules within 48 hours of the cutover, you won't be able to do through the button. So that button will be grayed out and it will just say to contact the porting team to be able to reschedule it. And that's because within 48 hours, the carriers do a lot of pre-setup and pre-cutover work already. And so to prevent anything going wrong with the reschedule requests, you have to come to us first so we can talk directly to the carriers and escalate it, okay? And that's just something to be wary of when you're trying to do reschedule. Try and do it as soon as you know and try to avoid doing it within 48 hours of the cutover because it's a bit harder to do, okay? And a bit more of a longer process. So if we go to the next bit where you find it. So you log into SaaSboss and on the home page, you go to DID numbers onto porting orders where you'd find all your porting orders currently active. You look at the one that is currently booked or the one that you want to move. You can either click on it on the numbers on the left side or click the actions button in the view. And this will basically open up that porting order for you. And like I said, you can find the reschedule button next to the book date on that porting order. So you can click that. And what this will bring up is a little confirmation, basically. It just says, look, this is you're about to set a reschedule for this for the end customer. It's going to cost them this much. Do you accept this? And are you happy to approve this before we continue? And it's just a little a final confirmation before you click it in case you accidentally clicked it and didn't mean to proceed. So you can click on confirm on that, and it will take you to the next bit, which is where you can choose the dates. So like I said, there's some restrictions on certain types of porting. So with Cat A's, inbounds, and simple for New Zealand, the earliest possible date that you can choose for the new reschedule date is 5 business days from when you are currently submitting the reschedule. Okay, so if you're submitting a reschedule request on a Monday, the earliest you can choose is the next Monday for the week after, okay? Because that's 5 business days. So that's the earliest you can choose from. And the latest possible date you can choose out to for those porting types is 20 total choose. So if you try to choose anything beyond that, it won't let you. But it's important to keep those sort of timeframes in mind for those ones. And then for Cat C and Complex, it's 10 business days from the current date for the earliest and 30 total days from the current date for the latest. All right. So there are some restrictions that apply. Again, if you need any help with rescheduling something outside of these timeframes, you can reach out to us and we can look into it for you more. But these are the general timeframes that we have to follow as well. And it's kind of the standard process for all rescheduling going forward with carriers. So after you choose the date, you get to choose the time. So here you can choose if there's you choose yes or no for specific time. If you don't need a specific time and you just want it to happen on this specific Wednesday, but you don't mind if it's in the morning or if it's at 12, you just leave it as no, and we'll just choose the next available time for that date. But if you do need a time and you click yes, it will give you a drop-down box that you can choose from. For Australian porting and inbounds and so forth, you can only choose from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. in 1 hour intervals. So you can choose like 8, 9, 10 a.m. and so forth. For New Zealand, you're only given 2 options. You'll be given 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. as they're sort of the cutover restrictions in New Zealand of their porting processes. And so you only have two times to choose from, for New Zealand. If you need to do after hours for any reason as well, that only applies to Cat C ports. And what we suggest you do is you click no for a specific time, but then you comment on the porting ticket itself after you submitted this reschedule request and just ask us, hey guys, I want to do after hour porting. Is that possible? What are we looking at for dates and so forth? And we can get back to you and let you know how it's going to work, okay? There is a bit more of a process of after hours, but we'll walk you through it and we'll help you out with it as well. So it is a little bit daunting, but we can walk you through it and help you, okay, with that side of it. Once you've chosen your date and time, you can then click the reschedule button at the very end, and that will send the confirmation to begin the process of the reschedule, okay? Now, it does take about 2 business days sometimes for this reschedule request to be fully processed and confirmed by the carriers. It is important to note that once it's sent off and a carrier acknowledges it, your current booking that you have will be cancelled or, I guess, removed once the carrier acknowledges that booking and sent it off to the losing carrier to reschedule it. So if you've sent it off on the Tuesday and it's booked for the Thursday, and on the Wednesday you get sort of confirmation stuff from us that the reschedule is being processed, that means that your current booking has been taken off or removed, and this new reschedule is being processed by all the carriers involved, okay? And we will always notify you once it gets rebooked that it's set in stone for this new date. And so that's the final confirmation you get. But you'll always get notified on the tickets and via emails that it has been rescheduled and confirmed. Okie dokie. And what if your date's not available that you wanted? Well, it can be annoying, but sometimes certain carriers have certain availabilities of booking slots, and the date you wanted just isn't available. What will happen is we will reach out to you guys on the ticket and ask what other date you would like that's later than the one you chose, or if you want the next available date after the date you wanted. So we'll always reach out to you first and ask you what date you need and sort of what timeframes you're after before we proceed if your date that you wanted isn't available. Okay, and how late can I request a reschedule? So with this, you should be sending reschedules as soon as you're aware, just because that gives you the least amount of risk involved with sending a reschedule request in, and it means that we can try and get it sorted out ASAP for you as well. So it's less headaches for everyone involved. But as a general rule of thumb, anything before 48 hours of the cutover should be okay. If it gets within that 48 hours, like I said, the reschedule button will be grayed out and you can't use it anymore. It is considered an emergency reschedule at that point, and there are additional fees involved as well. So what you need to do is, if you really needed an emergency reschedule within 48 hours of the cutover, make sure you call us on that number up there on option 5, because you need to let us know straight away so we can action it as soon as we can, basically. Because runs the risk that if you leave it too late, sometimes the carriers don't acknowledge it and the cutover might still happen. So as soon as you know that you need to reschedule it, always send it through. And if it's within that 48 hours, make sure to give us a call straight away, and we should answer your call and sort it out for you, okay? And we can't guarantee, obviously, that will be fulfilled if it gets closer to the cutover every hour it goes, okay? How do the fees work? So there's some fees that we offer. We do offer one free reschedule for all partners. So for your customer, if they want to reschedule the first time, that's always free on Access 4. However, if it's within 48 hours of the cutover, even if it's your first reschedule, it is not free, okay? Because as I said before, anything within 48 hours of the cutover is an emergency reschedule. And because the carriers have already done pre-cutover setup on their end, we get charged for it and everyone gets charged for it, and it's something you got to watch out for, okay? So it does have extra charges involved. And so these will depend on the port and how many numbers you have and batches and so forth. And it can be quite costly if you have a lot of different numbers and sites involved, okay? So to keep that in mind, that try and submit porting requests as soon as you can, because the later you leave it, the more risk there is and the more fees there are involved for you and your end customer to sort out. And it's easier just to get it resolved sooner rather than later, definitely. And once again, once you ask for that reschedule within 48 hours of the cutover, we will always come to you with the fees and get written confirmation from you before we proceed. So you will never just be slapped with a fee out of nowhere that you're not aware of. We will always get your confirmation that we can proceed and that you're happy to accept the fee of this amount before we do anything.
Can a port be brought forward? So we can bring porting orders forward, but we can't always guarantee that our carrier will have that booking available. This is only once it's been booked and ready to go. If it's still in validation, we can't promise that it could be brought forward. until that validation is resolved, or if there's any rejections that also delays the booking. It's all dependent on the gaining and the losing carrier's availability. So we could ask to try and bring it forward.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one, bringing things forward. Again, it's something we love to do if we can. If we find out that you're able to bring something forward because an availability's popped up, that's fantastic. We want to get it done as soon as possible. But yeah, we are very restricted on when things can go through. That's why we usually say if you can book in advance, we love things being booked in advance because you're most likely going to get the exact date and time that you want. The problem with bringing things forward is that all of the carriers have different availabilities and none of them will tell us what they are. So we will only find out when we send that request off. And we'll only find out 1 or 2 days later when they come back to us and say yes or no. And at that point, there can be issues if we've rescheduled and say lost that date that you had booked in the hopes of getting it sooner. If there's nothing available, you may actually end up getting it later. So if you do want to bring something forward, again, we're really happy to do it. Send us a message on the ticket rather than using the reschedule button and ask us if we can find that out for you, and we can send off a request to the carrier and we can say we would like to bring it forward. Do not move anything yet, but please let us know if there's availability. When we get that response back and we let you know, it is crucial that you get back to us quickly because availabilities fill up quickly. A lot of people will just say ASAP, which just means they're just going to take whatever the slot is next available. So if you have a date that is actually acceptable to you, but maybe it takes you 3 or 4 days to speak to the end customer and confirm that before you get back to us, we can't guarantee that that slot is still going to be available. So it's all just a matter of time and communication, getting that across the info to you guys and you guys back to us as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I just say the general rule of thumb with anything you have into the rescheduling and so forth, and even porting. If you're ever unsure, just ask on the ticket, or even just give us a call. We're always more than happy to help you guys out where we can and explain things in further detail if you need. So don't be afraid to ask us if you're ever unsure, because we'll just help you out and clarify it if you need.